Alright, can you guys hear me? Testing, testing. Alright, can you guys hear me? Testing. Alright, sweet. That is wonderful. I just had to go through a whole process right there to try and get you guys some audio. And let me explain why that is. So we'll start this thing off by saying welcome back to, that's right, your Toronto Huskies franchise live once again. And yes, it has been a minute. It's been about 2 months, give or take. And I can explain why that is. Mainly it's just life, but more than that, I also decided I was going to switch things up. And I've been recording this on the PS4 for since the beginning of this Toronto Huskies franchise, and I finally decided I would switch over to the PS5 because I recently realized that that was a possibility, essentially, because I didn't think that it was, given for the longest time I couldn't download all of my files and everything, and that's a whole nother thing which we'll get into, but I just went through a whole process to try and figure out why you guys couldn't hear me, because I was live for about 10 minutes and there was no audio at all other than the game audio, which, you know, is fine and all, but you guys, I'm sure, want to hear my lovely voice. But more than that, I'm very excited to announce to you guys that this Toronto Huskies franchise is going to be coming back stronger than ever, because we are on the PS5. And now you may not, sometimes you might notice some differences in terms of gameplay or something like that, but the biggest thing that I hope that we notice more than anything is the change in loading times. I'm hoping that's going to help us out to try and, you know, speed the process along a little bit. And also, another thing that I'm very excited about when it comes to this Toronto Huskies franchise is the following. All right, I think that the Huskies franchise is going to get a little revamped, and what I mean by that is it's not going to be alone on the channel anymore. So I'm considering possibly doing another franchise here for the YouTube channel. And I know you're probably like, well, you haven't even completed this franchise, and I understand that, but I just want to give you guys a little bit of variety. And I know that the Toronto Huskies franchise is my personal favorite franchise because it's the first one. It's my baby in essence. And before I get into this any further, I want to double check my audio because I have been dealing with this for quite some time now. So let me do that real quick. And it sounds good and whatnot, so I'm not going to mess around with it. But anyways, back to what I was saying. We are going to possibly be doing another franchise. I have a few ideas that I've been, spurring up, and something that a few things that I've been kind of doing on my own for a while at this point. And I think it would be something fun for you guys to be a part of. But before I get in and, announce a new franchise or anything like that, we got to get back into this one. And know if we do a new franchise, we are not going to be just up and getting rid of Toronto Huskies. It will always be around until we feel like we have come to a conclusion with this Toronto Huskies team. But the biggest thing for me is I want variety, because the game can get stale if you get the same stuff over and over and over again. So I want some variety, and we're going to try and get you guys that here, possibly on the channel with a new franchise. So if you guys are interested in something like that, let me know. But without further ado, let's jump back into this Toronto Huskies franchise on the new and revamped PS5 Madden 20 Toronto Huskies. Let's see how things are looking. Now, we last left off, and it was week 4 of the second year for the Toronto Huskies. Year 1 was with Ryan Fitzmagic, aka Ryan Fitzpatrick, okay? And he obviously was the starting quarterback, and that's right, as you see in the top right-hand corner, the owner. And so he decided he would take over for Shad Khan, who decided he didn't want to be a part of the NFL. He sold the rights to the team, and he essentially disbanded the Jacksonville Jaguars. So they are no more. Jacksonville is no more, and they decided to do away with everybody And what that meant was the rights for a new team were up in the air, and Ryan Fitzpatrick decided he was going to come in and take those rights and move a team to Toronto. That's right, and that is where the Toronto Huskies were born. And all of a sudden, Ryan Fitzpatrick, he knew he needed to help this team out, so he, for the first time ever in NFL history, this has happened. An owner was also a player. So the owner of this Huskies team was the starting quarterback in year one. However, he did retire the following season, or I believe he retired. I can't remember. It's been a minute. Let me double check on that. Yes, he did retire, and that is because we went out and drafted a new quarterback. And as you saw there for a second, his name is Trevor Nickerson, and we will get to that, shortly. But the big thing here is there was a huge drastic change for this team. As you see here, we're a 79 overall, so we are definitely on a lower tier in the NFL, probably the lowest rated team in the NFL. However, that doesn't mean that we are the worst team necessarily. I think we have a lot of pieces to build around, and our team just a season ago, we were all the way down in about the 74, 73 range in terms of overall, and we've jumped all the way up to 79. So I think this is considered a successful rebuild so far, despite the fact that last season we only had, I believe, 2 or 3 wins on the entire year. But I think we can top that this year. I know. You're sitting there and you're like, well, you're sitting at 0-4 right now. And that is true. We did start off the season a little slow. But as you see, these games are a lot closer. Against the Titans right there in week 4, we just lost by 14 points. And this is the Titans team that has kind of found their footing of late. So as you see, they are 3-1 and leading the division. So I wouldn't necessarily say that was a slouch of a team that we lost to. So there's a lot of things going into this. And let's take a look at the team for you new people who are out there. And not only let's take a look at the team and some of the things that we have to do moving forward. So the team looks like the following. So we made some recent acquisitions through free agency and also the draft over the last season or two. So this team looks a lot different. So to start this thing off, we'll go position by position. We have Trevor Nickerson, our rookie starting quarterback from Maine. That's right, the college Maine. And he was a surprise pickup by us. We didn't go after one of the top quarterbacks in the class. We instead bided our time and drafted Trevor Nickerson. That's right, very exciting stuff here. And we ended up drafting him all the way in the, 4th round. That's right, 4th round. And we probably could have gotten him even later, but we didn't want to miss out. He was actually initially rated as a 7th round prospect. And we grabbed him in the 4th. Yes, we drafted up for him, but we wanted our guy. We liked what he brought to the table. He's got some mobility with 80 speed. He's got a decent arm, 87 throw power. Accuracies are all definitely doable. I just like what he brought to the table. All right, and then we went out and signed a veteran presence to back him up in Andy Dalton, who might teach him some things about the NFL. And then looking at the running backs, we went out and signed Aaron Jones in free agency as well as Latavius Murray, because last season our leading halfback was Patrick Laird at 67 overall, which I will say this, he definitely fought valiantly. All right, however, he just wasn't quite good enough. All right, he just wasn't what we were looking for. And so we went out and we got a huge upgrade at the running back position, signed 2 guys, 2 veterans who I think are really going to help this team out moving forward. I don't know how long Latavius Murray is going to stick around, but he's a great number 2 complementary back to have. And then obviously at fullback, we went out and signed Robert Tonyan. That's right, the tight end turned fullback, because why not? All right. And then at wide receiver, we didn't actually make a whole lot of moves at receiver because we have such a stacked receiving core. I mean, they're all very young, but they all have huge potential. We got CeeDee Lamb as our number 1, and then we have Keontae Bonds, the rookie from last year, who also scored the first ever touchdown in Toronto Huskies franchise history. And then we have T. Higgins down here, Trent Sherfield, who was a breakout candidate last season, Michael Pittman Jr., and Russell Gage as well. Like, we got a lot of pieces down here at the receiving side of things. So we decided to not necessarily touch that and just try and develop some of these young guys while we still have the opportunity to do so. And then at the tight end position, we did go out and get a new tight end. We had a veteran presence there last season, and that veteran presence was Delaney Walker, and he fit very well with Ryan Fitzpatrick. He played quite well, to be honest. I just felt like we needed something different because he did regress very hard at the end of last season. He didn't retire, surprisingly, despite being about 36 years old. So we went out and got someone who was a decade younger, and Jonnu Smith, and also had a little bit more speed to his game. And then we have Jesper Horsted last season, who kind of broke out as a number 2 tight end. So I want to see what he can do down the stretch. Excuse me. Then look at the offensive line. Very young offensive line here. We got the rookie superstar, left tackle Adam Ritter. Very excited to see if he can be the staple that we need at that position moving forward. And then at guard, we went out and signed Netane Muti, I think is how you say it. Not quite sure. If I butchered that, I do apologize. We went out and signed him to be our starting left guard. And then we also have Nick Harris from last season, a young guy who I think can develop pretty well as a center. And then we have Lorenzo Betts, who was the big rookie offensive lineman from last season. And he's developed quite nicely up to a 78 overall. And I think he's only got more room to grow. And then we have Jedrick Wills, who actually last season played left tackle for us, but we decided to shift him over to right tackle, let the superstar play at left. And he really helped fill that role because the right tackle, we had a player leave mid-season, just quit football altogether. And so we had to decide what we were going to do with that because we ended up with a 69 overall Merrill Wiley starting for the majority of the season. He played valiantly, but he just wasn't what we were looking for at that spot. So we decided to move Jedrick Wills there instead. And then at the left end, we have a Fedi Adenabo, who played really well last year. He got to the quarterback. He did what he was supposed to do, and he came pretty cheap, so we went ahead and re-signed him. And then we also brought in a veteran presence across that front line, and that is Ryan Kerrigan, the X-Factor Ryan Kerrigan at 33 years old, and he has been a pretty good presence up front. I actually think he's a big upgrade over Rasheem Green, who was playing at that position last season. I just feel like it was a very big upgrade there. Even though it's only 7 overall points, he plays much bigger than that. And then we have, of course, the star of this team, Floyd Ellis, the absolute monster in the middle. And he, combined with Terrell Beckwith, both rookies last season, really set the tone for that defense last year. And I think that it was a very, very smart move to grab Floyd Ellis in the draft. I believe that we grabbed him, if I'm not mistaken, he was one of the top picks, actually, which was surprising. Yes, he was the 2nd overall pick. All right, and to go DT at number 2 is kind of shocking, but we went ahead and did it, and it has paid off amazingly. And so I cannot wait to see what he turns into. I think he might even be better than, that's right, Aaron Donald. But we'll see. And then looking at left outside linebacker. Linebacker was a little bit of a weakness for us. We didn't necessarily have any stud linebackers except for one who broke out last season, which we'll get there. So we went out and signed some guys. We got Logan Wilson to fill in that left outside linebacker role. I think he's a great cover guy, someone who we can build up and essentially shift anywhere across the linebacking core as we need. He could be middle, he could play left, right, wherever we want him. Zaire Franklin also played pretty well last season. Now, he's not going to start necessarily this year, but he's a good depth piece to have, and he could play, once again, pretty much anywhere. He's best as an outside linebacker, but he could play middle linebacker if we needed him to. And then we went out and signed X-Factor Demario Davis, another veteran who essentially jumps Josh Bynes, who was that veteran presence in the middle last season. And Josh Bynes did play well last year, but he was starting to show his age towards the end of last season. So we wanted to go get someone different, and we got Demario Davis, who was out there on the open market. And I really like that signing. I think it's a good upgrade, and it kind of brings a little bit extra speed. And we also went out and drafted a rookie here in JJ Mirable, who was a late round rookie who I think is ending up being a pretty good steal and someone who could take over for these veterans once he develops a little bit. And then at right outside linebacker, that's right, we have some awesome players here. We have Quincy Williams, who we went out and obviously he was one of the original players on this team, and he actually is the first ever superstar in Toronto Huskies history. So he had a breakout opportunity, he nailed that, and he became a superstar, and he is one of the fastest growing guys on this team. When we started this thing, Quincy Williams was a 66 overall, and now he's an 81 in just not even full 2 seasons, and about, we'll call it a season and a half, and he's already that much higher. So I love Quincy Williams. He's a great story. He essentially embodies what the Toronto Huskies are. And then we also drafted Darius Evans, an X-Factor linebacker in this most recent draft, and he was our number 1 player that we wanted to go out and get. I was very excited for him. I think that he's going to be a star in this league, and I think he could be a huge addition to us. We got him with the 6th pick too, so it wasn't even like we got him with the number 1 overall pick. We waited, we bided our time, and we snagged a great player here at 79 overall as a rookie. That's a phenomenal steal. And then we went out at cornerback and we signed some guys because we needed some help. The cornerbacks were just not great last year. We had last season Logan Ryan, who played corner for us, number 1 corner, and he just wasn't great. He was just a guy, it felt like. And so we went out, we wanted to get someone more than a guy. So we went out and got 2 guys here in Marshawn Lattimore and Big Play Slay. I think they are going to be a great duo out there at cornerback for us. And of course we had Richie Branch, who was a rookie last year, who played number 2 corner. And I think that now putting him back into the number 3 role, I think is going to fit his play a little bit better. And then we also have Nick Needham, who I thought he would play better last year. He kind of got burnt a lot, so I don't. Maybe with a little bit of development, he can get back on top of things. I'd like to see him develop though. And then at safety, we went out and made a move at safety at the trade deadline last season. And we went out and traded for Jalen Thompson from the Arizona Cardinals. We went out and got him, and I think that it was a great ad because he was all over the field last season. Someone that we can really count on to shore up both the run game and the pass game, which was nice to see. And we essentially wanted a little bit of an upgrade from Lano Hill, who was the starter, and now that gives us a 3rd safety if we need it, someone who can start at free or strong safety with Lano Hill. So that's pretty much why we did it. It's not a huge upgrade, but we just felt like it was a good value for what we were getting. I think we traded a mid-round pick for Jalen Thompson, so I think that was a really good steal for us. And then at strong safety, we had Rashad Jones starting there last season, and he was a lot higher overall. He wasn't a 70 when he was starting. I believe he was somewhere around 78 or something like that when he was starting, but he had a huge hit this offseason. And he was really great last year, though. He was that veteran presence that we needed in the secondary. And we needed someone, though, to replace him this season. And he's still on the team because I just think that what he did last season deserved, recognition. So we kept him on as a veteran leader. And then we went and signed drafted. I keep saying signed. Drafted Jaquil Easter. All right. And I think that he could be someone that brings a lot of extra speed on the back end that we didn't have last season. Because last season, that was one of our biggest weaknesses, is we didn't have speed. We drafted him with the 11th pick in this past draft, and I think that he can really develop into a solid, almost, star-level player if we play our cards right. And then obviously we still have Josh Lambo, the kicker, and Matt Hack, the punter. And as you see, we have a slew of draft picks, all right, which obviously we're not going to use all of these. More or less, this is just from when I started up the franchise, so we're not going to use them all. We're going to probably trade away at least half of these, or maybe even give them away just to make it a little more realistic. But we just wanted to make sure we were set up well enough for the future when I did this initial franchise, because I wasn't sure what it was going to entail. So I wanted to give us an opportunity to be set up for the future, but we are going to get rid of most of those picks and at least get us down to a reasonable number. So, because that's just ridiculous. But that rounds out this roster. As you can see, it is definitely, could use some work, but it also is very, very young, which I think is going to help us out a lot. So without further ado, though, I believe it is time to get into this. And we have some upgrades and a few breakout players here. So let's check out the breakout player for this episode. And as you can see here, we have a breakout for Jonnu Smith, the tight end. He needs 150 yards or 3 touchdowns, which I'll be honest, probably isn't going to happen. But you never know. We have seen crazier things in this franchise. Just check out that Colts game last season, which I'm not going to spoil anything. If you guys haven't seen it, definitely go check it out. It is one of the wildest finishes I've ever seen to a Madden game. All right, so we have to keep that in mind for Jonnu Smith, and we have an upgrade here for JJ Mirable. We're going to keep building him as a field general. I want him to be well-rounded, which is the best way to do that is to get him upgraded through the field general attributes. All right, and then looking at the negotiations here, we have some veterans here like Big Play Slay, Ryan Kerrigan. We're going to kind of wait on those guys to see how their regression hits them this season. And then Jonnu Smith is one. If he plays well enough this year, I signed him on a 1-year prove-it deal. If he plays well enough, we will give him another contract. If he doesn't, we'll let him walk and look for something else. All right, and looking at the rest of these guys, I want to sign some of these guys, like Rasheem Green. Super cheap deal. If nothing else, great backup to have, could develop into a starter. So I'm going to go ahead and give Rasheem Green a contract here, simply because at that sort of a deal, that's really cheap, even for a backup player. So I'm going to go ahead and give him a 3-year deal, and that keeps him on here until he's 27. And essentially, at that point, we will know whether he is going to develop. At that point, he will be almost fully developed. So we will know what we have with Rasheem Green. And he signs. And then looking forward, we might bring back Zaire Franklin. These veterans, though, a lot of these guys down here, we may not bring back. So if you guys want to see one of these guys brought back, let me know. I am always open to your input, because at the end of the day, this is a series for you guys. But moving on to the game. That's right, we are going to the Den here in Toronto, and it is crazy to think about, but it is another divisional game here against the Houston Texans, who are sitting at 2-2. Will your Toronto Huskies finally get a win here in this second season of the Toronto Huskies franchise? We will have to wait and see as we jump in here, and I am very excited because I truly think that this could be the week. Could we come back to the first win of the season? Do we have enough momentum? We'll have to see. And this is what I was talking about. This is going to pop up twice. Just ignore it. I don't know why it does that, but it doesn't pop up again. So, anyways, as we start this thing up, you have your Toronto Huskies hosting the Houston Texans, and those are not your commentators. I am your commentator. My name is TayVikes28, and I will be leading you guys through this game and showing off what we have to do. And in case you guys are wondering, I do not actually play these games. This is a sim franchise. This is a team building exercise. So we're trying to build this team and have it win on its own. That's what makes it so exciting, and essentially makes it also very difficult. As you see these teams coming out here, and your Toronto Huskies, led by, that's right, Mr. Trevor Nickerson, coming out onto the football field, and the Houston Texans are back in here in our building once again, and we've got a lot of things to prove after losing to the Texans last season in heartbreaking fashion multiple times. So we need to really show them what we more or less what we can do. And so we're going to go ahead and change the speed to slow. This is in case you guys are wondering how you watch games in Madden 20, this is how you do it. You got to change the speed down there to slow, and then you go ahead and jump forward to the end of the game, and you get to watch the entire game. All right, and your Toronto Huskies will be receiving the football to start this game, and this is going to be a good kick from Houston into the end zone for a touchback, and I hope that doesn't keep popping up. If it does, that might be a problem. But as you see, Trevor Nickerson struggling to start this season off. He is right now sitting at a 3-7 touchdown to interception ratio, and that has a lot to do with one game. He had this one game where he didn't necessarily play poorly. He actually played quite well, but there were a few things that more or less didn't go his way. And look at Aaron Jones on this first carry getting hit in the backfield. Should have been... Oh, it's going to keep doing this. All right. We will have to fix that. So bear with me here. Gosh. So I'm going to have to fix that. So give me a few minutes here to go ahead and try and figure out a way to fix that. If not, then I'll probably go ahead and actually end the stream here. Give you guys, we'll call this a little bit of an update. All right, we'll have an update stream here as once again I'm trying to figure out how this is going to work, because I need to figure out why it keeps bringing that up. If you guys have any answers, please let me know, because I need to figure it out. I've tried deleting files. I've tried deleting games. I've tried deleting pretty much everything that I can think of, and it still says I don't have any space, which makes no sense because according to the PS5, I have a ton of space, so I don't know what's going on here. Please, if you have any ideas, anything that is a solution, let me know, because I need to figure that out before I can go ahead and essentially get into the Toronto Huskies franchise for you guys. But I guess that's going to wrap up this short live stream, since we didn't get to actually play a game here, unfortunately. We will go ahead and jump back into this once I have it figured out. Might be later tonight, it might be a different day of the week, I don't know. We'll have to find out once I do a little bit of rearranging of the files on my system. So if I have to, I'll just delete everything. Not what I want to do, but I will do it if I have to. So hopefully you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. My name is TayVikes28. Thank you guys for tuning in. Next time, I promise we'll have a game for you.